Driveway access gone posted. Fine notice on my driveway at 6:15 a.m. before sunrise visible from the curb. Priscilla Thornfield, the HOA. President served a daily fine notice to assert control over my driveway and snowblower access, then repeated it on next door as enforcement. A cease and desist notice rested on the snowblower hood, heavy paper with a county seal listing restrictions without explanation. Not my driveway. Finally, someone fought back. The snow comes down hard before dawn, thick and sideways, the kind that erases edges and makes the whole neighborhood feel unfinished. Oak Street is quiet except for the low growl of my snowblower as it chews into the drift at the end of my driveway. The engine's vibration runs up my arms, steady and familiar, a sound I've trusted for years at 6:15 in the morning. I'm halfway through clearing the apron when headlights cut through the snow like knives. A white SUV rolls to a stop at the curb. The driver's door opens and Priscilla Thornfield steps out, boots too clean for the storm coat perfectly zipped. She doesn't look at the snow. She looks at me like I'm the problem that needs fixing. Marcus, she calls sharp enough to carry over the engine. Turn that off, right now. I ease the throttle down. The snowblower coughs once and dies. The sudden quiet makes the wind sound louder, more intrusive. Somewhere down the block, a porch flag snaps against its pole. My breath fogs inside my scarf. Priscilla strides up my driveway without slowing, holding a manila envelope out in front of her like credentials. You can't run power equipment at this hour, she says. You're disturbing the peace. It's 6:15, I reply. And it's snowing. That's not an excuse, she snaps. The HOA has quiet hours. The HOA doesn't own the weather. Her jaw tightens. This isn't a debate. This is enforcement. She flips the envelope open with a practiced motion and pulls out a sheet of heavy paper. It looks official in the way intimidation always tries to look official. Cease and desist, she says, thrusting it toward me. Effective immediately. I don't take it. I keep my hands on the snowblower handles. You're issuing orders now, I'm delivering notice, she corrects. The HOA asserts control here. The words land wrong. Control here. Like my driveway is a conference room she's reserving by the hour. I glance down at the asphalt beneath the snow at the familiar slope where my driveway meets Oak Street. I've watched that seam for years, watched tires cross it without thinking, watched seasons erase and redraw it. Priscilla follows my eyes and mistakes the pause for understanding. Exactly, she says. You get it? No, I say. I'm just looking. She steps closer, close enough that I can smell her perfume fighting the cold. You're operating equipment before 7. That's a violation. According to who? According to the board. She taps the paper once. And every day you ignore this notice, fines will apply. How much, I ask? Her voice is calm, almost pleased. $500 per day. I let out a short laugh before I can stop myself. For clearing snow, for repeated disturbance, she says. For hostile behavior. For ignoring community standards. Hostile, I repeat. Because I'm moving snow off my own driveway. Across the street, a curtain shifts. Then another. The neighborhood has a way of waking up for conflict. Priscilla straightens, lifting her voice just enough for the nearest porches. I'm trying to resolve this professionally, she says. But if you force escalation, I'll pursue all available remedies. You showed up here at dawn in a blizzard, I say, with a cease and desist, and you're calling this professional. Her smile thins. I'm protecting families. From snow, she leans in, lowering her voice. From you. You think because you've been here a long time you don't have to follow modern rules. Something tightens in my chest, not anger exactly, something colder. A lifetime of people assuming lines don't matter until someone enforces them. I follow the law, I say, not threats. Her smile returns sharp and satisfied. Then the law will decide. She turns the paper so I can't avoid it anymore. My eyes scan the dense language, the confident tone. Near the bottom, boxed and unmistakable, is a stamp that stops me cold. Filed. Below it, pressed into the paper, a county seal catches the porch light. You filed something with the county, I ask. She folds her arms. The HOA has options: noise complaints, nuisance reports, liens if necessary. You can't lien someone over a snowblower. She tilts her head. We'll see. From 2 houses down, a door creaks open. I hear Mr. Henderson's cautious voice. Priscilla. Everything all right? I'm fine, she calls back brightly, never taking her eyes off me. Then quieter. Are we clear, Marcus? I finally take the paper. It's stiff and cold in my glove. The language is designed to make people feel small. At the bottom, beneath the filed stamp, a reference number sits like a hook. Priscilla watches my face as if she expects something to break. You can resume at 8, she says, if you choose to comply. And if I don't? Her smile sharpens. Then the HOA will continue asserting control over this roadway. I look up on my property. For a split second, something flickers across her face, annoyance maybe, but it's gone as quickly as it came. She turns and walks back to her SUV, careful to step where the snow is thin. The door closes with a soft, expensive thud. The taillights glow red through the white as she pulls away, tires whispering over Oak Street, as if it belongs to her. I stand there alone, the paper fluttering slightly in the wind, staring at the county seal until my eyes burn. This isn't about a snowblower anymore. It never was. The email from the HOA lands in my inbox at 4:12 p.m., with a subject line that's all caps and all urgency. Emergency board meeting, community safety. By 5 o'clock, it's already on, next door too, screenshotted, circled, commented on like it's a weather warning. People I've waved to for years are suddenly typing in full paragraphs about concerns and patterns and accountability, as if I'm a line item on a budget. I'm not invited. That part is made clear in the last sentence of the email. Attendance is limited to board members and residents in good standing. In HOA language, good standing means quiet and easy. It means doesn't ask questions. Mrs. Henderson texts me anyway. Henderson, I'm going. Don't you worry. I'll tell you everything. I picture her in that little community room at the clubhouse, the one with the folding chairs and the 2 bright ceiling lights that make everyone look tired, the one that always smells faintly of coffee that's been sitting too long. An hour later, another text comes through. Henderson. She has a PowerPoint. About you. I stare at the screen and feel something hollow out in my stomach. A PowerPoint. Like I'm a project. Then she sends a photo. It's blurry, taken from a lap, but I can make out the projection screen. A title in glossy HOA font addressing disruptive residents, and underneath it a subheading that makes my jaw clench: legal options and community protection. Henderson sends another photo. Slide number 3. My name is right there, centered bold as an accusation: Marcus Kellerman, pattern of early morning disturbance. Under it are bullet points, timestamps. A grainy still image from someone's Ring doorbell of me behind the snowblower, bundled up like a man trying to keep warm, not like a threat. The texts keep coming in little bursts, like she's typing with one hand and clutching her purse with the other. Henderson. She keeps saying, community safety, like you're dangerous. Henderson. She wants a legal fund, $200 each house, lawyers to enforce compliance. I can almost hear Priscilla's voice through the screen, smooth, confident, the kind of tone that turns fear into policy. Community safety is the blanket she throws over everything sharp. In my kitchen, the daylight has gone thin and gray. I stand by the window watching cars crawl past in the snow, watching headlights sweep across my front yard. The street looks calm, ordinary, the kind of calm that makes you forget how quickly people can turn on you when someone gives them a script. My phone buzzes again. Henderson, Bill's nodding along. Can you believe that man? Of course he is. Bill will nod at whoever looks like they're winning. Then, like a punch you don't see coming, my doorbell chimes. Not the soft little ring alert this time. A hard knock follows it, 2 quick raps, official, in a way that makes the hair on my arms rise. I open the door, and cold air rushes in sharp as metal. 2 sheriff's deputies stand on my porch, shoulders dusted with snow. One is older with a lined face and the kind of tired eyes that have seen every version of neighbor dispute 1,000 times. The other looks younger but not green. The older deputy holds a clipboard close to his chest like it's a shield. Mr. Kellerman, he asks. That's me. He nods once, polite. We got a call. Welfare concern. My mouth goes dry. From who? He doesn't answer directly, but he doesn't have to. In a neighborhood this small, the truth travels faster than the wind. The younger deputy shifts his weight, glancing past me into my house. Someone reported erratic behavior, he says carefully. Possible harassment. Early morning equipment. Some statements about property. Statements I repeat. Like what? The older deputy flips a page. They're concerned you might be not doing well since your wife passed. The words hit like an elbow to the ribs, not because they're said out loud, but because they're being used as a tool. I grip the edge of the door. I'm grieving, I say. That's not a crime. No, the older deputy agrees. It's not. His tone is different than I expect. Not accusing, not eager, just steady. Like a man who's walked into this kind of mess before and already knows which side is noise. He looks at me for a long second, then at the snowblower parked in the driveway, quiet and harmless under a crust of ice. Mind if we ask you a few questions, he says. Go ahead. They keep it simple. My name, my age, whether I'm taking care of myself, whether I've threatened anyone, whether I feel like hurting myself or others. No, I say. No. No. The younger deputy watches my face like he's checking for cracks. The older one listens like he's already made up his mind. After a few minutes, the older deputy exhales and closes the clipboard. Mr. Kellerman, he says, lowering his voice just enough to feel human. I'm going to be straight with you. This doesn't read like concern. I blink. What does it read like? He tilts his head toward the street, toward the clubhouse down the block, where the meeting is happening right now. Authority. The younger deputy gives a tight, uncomfortable half smile, as if he wishes the word wasn't true but knows it is. The older deputy meets my eyes. They're asserting authority, he says, not concern. For a moment, the cold doesn't feel as cold. Not because the situation is better, but because someone outside this HOA bubble has said the quiet part out loud. He hands me a card. If anyone shows up again and starts crossing lines, call us. And try not to give them anything they can twist. Like snow, I mutter. The younger deputy huffs a short laugh before he catches himself. They step off my porch boots, crunching on the packed snow. Their patrol car idles at the curb like a reluctant witness. Then the taillights fade into the storm. I stand in my doorway longer than I should, letting the wind sting my face, letting the humiliation settle in without turning into something loud. Across the street, a curtain slips back into place. My phone buzzes again. Henderson, vote didn't pass. She's furious. She called you unstable. I told her to sit down. I stare at that word unstable and feel a heavy, powerless anger press down on my ribs. This isn't about noise. It isn't even about rules. It's about a person who learned how to wrap control in polite language and call it safety. When the house finally feels too quiet, I go downstairs. The basement light flickers once, then holds. The air is dry and smells faintly of dust and old paper. Along the back wall, metal tubes sit in a neat row the way I've kept them for years. My grandfather's maps, my own work. Lines drawn by men who understood that boundaries aren't feelings. They're facts. I reach for the tube with the dented cap, the one that's been there longer than I've lived in this house. My fingers close around cold metal. Upstairs, Oak Street keeps carrying people home like nothing happened, like no one just tried to turn my grief into a weapon. I twist the cap slowly until it gives, and I pull the old map out into the light. The basement light flickers once before settling into a thin, steady glow. I spread the map across my workbench and let the corners curl where they want to curl. The paper is older than the house above, it yellowed and soft at the edges, the ink still sharp enough to cut, if you know how to read it. 1950. My grandfather's handwriting runs along the margins in neat, confident strokes. Bearings. Distances. A man who trusted numbers more than promises. I breathe in the smell of old paper and dust and oil from tools that haven't moved in a while. The world upstairs feels far away down here. Quieter. Honest. I smooth the map flat with both hands and trace the western boundary line with my finger. It runs clean and straight just like he always insisted it should. No guesswork. No drama. My finger keeps moving until it reaches a familiar curve. Oak Street. I stop. The line doesn't bend around the road. It doesn't respect it. It goes straight through it. That can't be right, I murmur, though there's no one down here to hear me. I pull the deed from its envelope and set it beside the map. The paper is heavier, more formal, stamped and signed in a way that feels permanent even decades later. I scan the language slowly, the way you read something that can change your life if you miss a word. There it is. A clause I've skimmed 100 times without really seeing it. I read it again. Then again. My chest tightens. Oak Street wasn't just land I owned, I say quietly, the words tasting strange and new. It was an inherited roadway. The sentence hangs in the air like it's waiting for permission to be real. I sink onto the stool and let the realization settle. All those mornings, all those cars, every tire that's rolled past my house without a second thought. I hear Sarah's voice in my head, gentle and amused. You always said your grandfather planned for everything. I didn't think he meant this, I tell the empty room. I glance at the clock. Just past midnight. If I'm wrong, I need to know now. I grab my coat and the old measuring tools and step back out into the cold. The snow has eased, leaving the world hushed and reflective. Street lights glow off the fresh white like stage lights. I set up near the edge of the driveway, careful and precise the way I was trained. The metal feels right in my hands, familiar in a way nothing else has lately. I take measurements, check angles, confirm what my eyes already know. Every marker lines up. The road sits exactly where the map says it shouldn't. It's not public, I whisper the words barely visible in the air. A car approaches from the east, headlights sweeping across the snow. It slows as it passes me, then continues on without stopping. For a split second, the driver's face catches the light. Priscilla. Her eyes flick toward me, sharp and curious, before she looks away. Her tires roll smoothly over the asphalt, over the exact stretch of land my grandfather drew and documented and never gave away. She doesn't know it yet, but she's driving on my inherited roadway. I finish the measurements and head back inside, hands numb but steady. In the basement, I spread everything out again, the plat map, the deed, my notes, lining them up, until the story tells itself without needing my help. Upstairs, the house creaks, softly settling. I imagine Sarah standing at the top of the stairs, arms crossed, that familiar look on her face. "So what are you going to do?" she'd ask. "I'm going to be sure," I say out loud. I take photos of the documents, careful to capture every line and stamp. I label them the way I always have, clear and boring and impossible to argue with. Another set of headlights sweeps across the basement window. Then another. Life keeps moving along Oak Street, confident and unbothered. I roll the map back into its tube, slower this time, like I'm putting away something I'll live. The metal cap clicks into place with a finality that makes my stomach flip. Tomorrow, people will still wave, still complain, still talk about rules and safety and standards. They'll keep using the road like it's always been theirs. I turn off the basement light and stand in the darkness for a moment, listening to the faint hum of the house. Hope doesn't arrive like relief. It leaks in, quiet and careful, through a line on an old map that never moved at all. The Channel 9 van pulls up at exactly 9 o'clock, its tires crunching on the last crust of snow at the curb. The logo on the side looks louder than it should in the quiet morning. I watch from the kitchen window as the reporter steps out, adjusts her coat, and takes in my house like she's framing a shot before the camera ever comes out. I pour a second cup of coffee and wait. The knock is polite. Professional. "Mr. Kellerman," she says when I open the door. "I'm Jessica Finley. Thanks for agreeing to talk." Inside, the kitchen smells like coffee and old paper. Sunlight falls across the table where I've already laid everything out, edges squared, nothing hidden. Deeds don't like drama. They like space. Jessica sets her recorder down and clicks it on. The tiny red light glows. A soft beep cuts through the room. "Okay," she says, settling into the chair across from me. "Your HOA president reached out to us about an ongoing dispute. She says you've been violating noise ordinances and creating safety concerns for the neighborhood." "Did she say anything about control?" I ask. Jessica glances at her notes. "She said the HOA was enforcing standards." "That's a cleaner word," I say. She looks up, curious. "You disagree?" I slide the plat map toward the center of the table. The paper makes a dry, whispering sound against the wood. Her eyes drop to it automatically. "This is the original subdivision plat," I say. "Filed in 1950. She leans forward, the reporter in her waking up. "That's old." "So is the truth," I reply. She gives a short smile and reaches for her camera. Click. The shutter snaps softly. Click again. So she says, glancing back at me, "Walk me through what's happening." I tell her about the morning in the snow. Reminds her of the cease and desist, the fines, the language Priscilla used. I repeat it the way it was said, not louder, not softer. "The HOA asserts control here," I quote. Jessica's eyebrows lift. "Here" meaning, I tap the map, "my driveway." and the road in front of it. She studies the lines, the labels, the way Oak Street is drawn without ceremony, just another strip of land with measurements attached. Her expression shifts, subtle but unmistakable. I slide the deed out next, heavier, more formal. This is the deed to my property. Same year. She reads in silence for a moment, lips moving slightly as she tracks the language. The room is quiet, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. Danny's voice crackles through the phone on the counter when I put him on speaker. "Morning, Marcus?" Danny, Jessica says, leaning closer. "You're his attorney friend," he replies, "and someone who reads this kind of paper for a living." She gestures at the documents. "Am I understanding this correctly, that the HOA tried to assert control over a road they never owned?" There's a pause on the line, the kind that carries weight. "That's exactly what happened," Danny says. Jessica looks back at me, eyes sharp now. "So this isn't about noise." "No," I say. "It's about authority." She sits back, absorbing that. The camera clicks again, slower this time, like she's documenting evidence instead of scenery. "And the county," she asks. "They filed something." "They accepted a complaint," I say. "Filed, without checking ownership." Her pen stops moving. "That's a problem." "For who?" I ask. "For anyone who doesn't like daylight," she replies. We talk for another half hour. I answer what I can and decline what I won't. I don't insult Priscilla. I don't speculate about motives. I just keep pointing to the paper. When Jessica stands to leave, she gathers her things with care. "This is bigger than a neighborhood dispute," she says at the door. "People don't like finding out assumptions were wrong." "I'm not trying to embarrass anyone," I tell her. She gives me a knowing look. Truth has a way of doing that on its own. After she leaves, the house feels quieter than before, like it's waiting. I stack the papers back into their folders and slide them into the drawer. The coffee has gone cold. My phone buzzes before I can rinse my mug. A notification from next door lights up the screen. "Emergency HOA action required." I open the thread. Posts pile up fast. Words like outrageous and dangerous and irresponsible blur together. Someone mentions lawyers. Someone else mentions the news. A comment pops up from an account I recognize immediately. Priscilla T. "We will not be intimidated by technicalities." I set the phone face down on the table and let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Outside, the Channel 9 van pulls away, tires hissing on wet pavement. The street looks the same as it always has. Cars pass, neighbors come and go. But the story isn't private anymore. Control has a way of shrinking once it's dragged into the open, and for the first time since this started, I feel something shift. Not relief, not victory, just the steady pressure of eyes turning toward the same set of facts. Public doesn't mean safe, but it does mean real. By the time I pull into the community center parking lot, the place is already full. Cars spill onto the snow-lined shoulder. Headlights sweep across the building like searchlights, catching clusters of neighbors huddled near the entrance, breath puffing in nervous clouds. The glass doors keep opening and closing, letting out warm air, and the muffled hum of a crowd that came to witness something, not just talk about it. Inside, every folding chair is taken. People stand along the walls, coats still on arms crossed tight. The lights overhead are too bright and too cold, bleaching faces, and making everyone look a little guilty. In the back of the room, a local news camera is set up on a tripod. A red indicator light glows like a warning. Priscilla is at the front, perfectly centered beneath the projection screen. She has a remote in her hand, and a stack of papers on the podium arranged as neatly as if the table itself might accuse her of disorder. Behind her, the PowerPoint title fills the screen in thick, confident letters. When individual rights threaten community safety, I feel eyes on me the moment I step in. Some are curious. Some are angry. Some are relieved, like they can finally stop guessing what I look like when I'm not behind a snowblower. Danny meets me near the first row, calm in a dark coat that makes him look like he belongs in court more than a clubhouse. He leans close without smiling. "Stay steady," he murmurs. "Let her talk." Priscilla clears her throat into the microphone. The speakers crackle. The sound is thin and harsh. "Good evening," she says, voice strong enough to fill the room without strain. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice. We are here because a serious situation has developed in our community, one that involves safety access and the stability of property values." She clicks. A slide appears, photos of my driveway gate frame, a still from Ring footage of me standing by the road, a screenshot of the Channel 9 headline cropped to look as alarming as possible. "This is not about punishment," she continues. "This is about control being exercised responsibly." My jaw tightens at the word, but I don't move. Priscilla clicks again. A new slide, a chart titled Emergency Response Delay Risk, with arrows and numbers. Another slide, Child Safety Impact, with stock photos of worried parents. She speaks the way she always does, smooth, certain, careful, to make her fear sound like logic. "Mr. Kellerman has asserted a private claim over Oak Street," she says, gesturing toward the screen. "A claim that, if allowed, sets a dangerous precedent. We cannot allow one resident to hold an entire neighborhood hostage over personal grievances." A ripple runs through the room. Some people nod. Some stare at their shoes. Priscilla's gaze finds me, and she holds it just long enough to make it clear she wants everyone to see who she's talking about. "This community must decide," she says, "whether we tolerate this kind of conduct." I take one slow breath and look down at the manila folder in my hands. It feels heavier than it should, not because of the paper, but because of what it represents. Danny touches my elbow, just a small pressure, a reminder. Priscilla finishes with a final slide, bold and triumphant, "Restore access now." Applause breaks out from one side of the room, scattered at first, then stronger. It sounds like relief dressed up as righteousness. Priscilla steps back from the podium, as if she's delivered a closing argument. Now she says we will hear from Mr. Kellerman if he wishes to address the community. All eyes turn. I walk to the front, the floor squeaking under my boots. The microphone stands too high, so I lower it. The speakers pop. The noise makes a few people flinch. I set my folder on the podium and look out over the room. These are people who borrow sugar and wave when they pass. People who watched me clear their driveways. People who can be persuaded by a PowerPoint if it makes their lives feel simpler. I'm not here to fight with anyone I begin. My voice sounds steadier than my hands feel. I'm here because something true got buried under something convenient. Priscilla's mouth tightens. I pull out the Plat map first. It's laminated now, enlarged enough for the front rows to see the lines. I hold it up and turn it slowly. "This is the original Plat map," I say. "Recorded before any of these houses existed." A low murmur starts. People lean forward. The news camera shifts, lens adjusting. I lay the map on the podium, then pull out the deed and hold it up beside it. "This deed belongs to my family," I continue. "It includes the land under Oak Street, what I now know is an inherited roadway." Priscilla's head snaps up at the phrase, like she didn't expect it to land so cleanly. Danny steps forward and takes the microphone with the ease of a man who's done it 1,000 times. "Ladies and gentlemen," he says, "my name is Daniel Kowalski. I'm representing Mr. Kellerman in this matter." Priscilla opens her mouth as if to object, but Danny doesn't give her space. We pulled the chain of title, he says, holding up a sheaf of documents. We checked county records. We checked subdivision filings. We checked the original dedication documents that would be required for a road to become public. He pauses, letting the weight build. There are none. A hush falls over the room like a blanket. Even the people who were nodding earlier stop. Danny taps the enlarged Plat map with one finger. This line right here, this boundary never moved. It was never transferred. It was never condemned. It was never legally dedicated for public use. Priscilla's face is perfectly still, but her eyes are hard. That's absurd, she says, voice sharp through the microphone. The city maintains that road. Danny turns toward her slowly, like he's addressing a witness on the stand. Municipal maintenance doesn't create ownership, he says. A map in an office doesn't replace a deed in the recorder's vault. He looks back at the room. His voice drops just slightly, forcing people to listen. You've all been told this is about a man misbehaving, he says, but it's actually about a community discovering. It was built on an assumption. Priscilla grips the edge of the podium as if she might shake it into agreeing with her. Danny lifts his hand and points to the documents spread across the podium, then to the screen behind us where Priscilla's slides still glow with warnings and charts. That's the moment the original Plat map took effect, he says. The sentence lands with a strange finality. Not dramatic, not cruel, just clean. For 3 full seconds, nobody speaks. In that silence, I can hear the faint whir of the news camera. I can hear someone's jacket zipper. I can hear my own pulse in my ears. Priscilla's confidence cracks just enough to show something underneath panic, quick and bright. I step forward again, taking the microphone back. I know what you're thinking, I say, scanning faces. Some of you are angry. Some of you are scared. And some of you are wondering why you never heard about this before. A woman in the second row whispers, "Is this real?" "It's real," I answer, meeting her eyes. "And I'm not here to punish anyone for something a developer failed to do 15 years ago." Priscilla scoffs. "Then open the road." I look at her, then back at the room. "I'm willing to solve this," I say. "Tonight, right here." I pull a single sheet from my folder and hold it up. "I'll grant an easement to the community for $1, I say, and the room exhales like it's been underwater. With 3 conditions. Priscilla's eyes narrow. The news camera zooms in. I keep my voice level. First, Mrs. Thornfield resigns from the HOA board immediately. A shockwave runs through the chairs. Mrs. Henderson's mouth falls open in something like satisfaction. Second, I continue the harassment stops. The threats, the filings, the safety theater done. Priscilla's face flushes. Third, I say we create a community maintenance fund. Because if we're going to live like neighbors again, we're going to act like it. The room is no longer split cleanly. Faces shift. People glance at each other. The story Priscilla brought into this room is collapsing under the weight of paper that doesn't care about her tone. Priscilla steps toward the microphone, voice tight. "You can't." I hold up a hand. Not aggressive, just firm. I'm not taking questions from a PowerPoint. Somebody laughs, one quick, surprised burst, then another. The tension doesn't disappear, but it changes shape. I look out at the crowd, at the camera, at the red light still glowing in the back of the room. For the first time since this started, the control in this neighborhood is no longer sitting behind an HOA letterhead. It's sitting on the podium in front of everyone, stamped and signed and impossible to ignore. The resignation letter arrives before dawn, slid halfway under my door, like something that doesn't want to be seen. I find it when I go to make coffee, the paper catching my bare foot on the kitchen tile. For a second, I think it's another notice, another threat dressed up as procedure, but the envelope is plain, unmarked, the name typed without flourish. Priscilla Thornfield. The letter is short. No apology, no explanation, just a single paragraph about pursuing opportunities elsewhere and an effective date set immediately. She thanks the board for their service and wishes the community well the way people do when they're already gone. Outside, the street is quiet in that early, fragile way. The snow has softened overnight, edges melting back into the pavement. I look out the window toward Oak Street and notice what isn't there. The white Tesla is gone. Its spot at the curb is bare, the asphalt darker where tires used to rest. For weeks, that car felt like a sentry idling, watching, recording. Now it's just an empty stretch of road, ordinary again. I fold the letter once and set it on the counter. The house doesn't feel triumphant. It feels settled. By mid-morning, Mrs. Henderson knocks on my door, cheeks flushed from the cold, her knit hat pulled low. "Well," she says without preamble, "did you see it?" "The letter?" I ask. She nods, a smile tugging at her mouth. "And the car she left before sunrise. Didn't even wave." That sounds like her. Mrs. Henderson steps inside and looks around like she's checking for echoes. "The board called an emergency session last night." "Without her?" "Already?" I ask. "She resigned before they could vote her out." Henderson says, pleased. Smart in her own way. She pulls a folded document from her coat pocket and hands it to me. "They're ready when you are." The easement signing takes place in the same community room that hosted the showdown, but it feels like a different building. The lights are warmer. The chairs are spaced out instead of packed tight. There's no camera crew, no PowerPoint waiting to argue. Just paper, pens, people who look tired of being afraid of each other. The new HOA president, a quiet man named Ellis, who's lived here almost as long as I have, stands beside the table. He clears his throat and gives a small, earnest nod. "We're grateful you're willing to resolve this," he says. "Fairly." I slide the document toward him. I said I would. The easement is clean and simple. Access granted. Terms spelled out. No tricks, no traps. Ellis signs first-hand, steady. Then me. The pen scratches softly across the page, the sound louder than it should be in the quiet room. Mrs. Henderson lets out a breath she's been holding for weeks. "That's that," she says. "Almost," I reply. Ellis looks up. "We've already scheduled a full board election," he says. "New bylaws review, transparency measures." "Good," I say. "That's how this stays done. When it's over, no one claps, no one cheers. People just stand there for a moment looking at each other like neighbors again, not opposing counsel." Back outside, the air smells like wet snow and thawing ground. The sun is higher now, light catching on puddles along the curb. Cars move freely along Oak Street, tires humming like they always have. Mrs. Henderson walks with me back toward my house, her steps careful. "You know," she says, "some folks are embarrassed." "About what?" "About how fast they believed her," she admits. "About how easy it was." I nod. Control likes an audience. She stops at the edge of my driveway and looks down at the asphalt, then back up at me. "You didn't embarrass anyone," she says. "You just showed them where the line was." After she leaves, I stand alone for a moment, listening to the neighborhood breathe. A garage door lifts somewhere. A dog barks once and quiets. Ordinary sounds returned. I think about the letter, about the empty space where a white Tesla used to sit, about the signatures drying on paper that will outlast all of us. They tried to control the road. The Plat map decided otherwise. The thought settles into me not as victory, but as balance restored. I wheel the snowblower out of the garage, the metal cold against my palms. There's still slush along the edges of the drive. Places where meltwater will freeze again overnight if it's ignored. I pull the cord. The engine coughs, then roars to life, steady and willing. The sound rolls down Oak Street, not defiant, just present. No one comes out waving paper. No one films. I make my first pass along the driveway. As the sun climbs higher, the machine carving a clean line through what's left of winter. Behind me, the house stands quiet. Ahead of me, the road runs exactly where it always has, clear, open, and no longer pretending to belong to anyone who didn't earn it. 6:15 comes again, the same way it always has, quiet and pale and honest. I'm awake before the alarm, standing at the front window with a mug warming my hands. Dawn eases itself over Oak Street, soft pink bleeding into gray. The air is still. No engines idle. No footsteps rush up my driveway. No one is waiting to tell me what I can or can't do. I step outside and breathe in the cold. It smells clean now, like wet pavement and pine, not tension. Down the block, a garage door lifts with a familiar groan. Then another. Mrs. Henderson appears first, bundled up, shovel over her shoulder like a badge of honor. She sees me and lifts a hand. "Morning," she calls. Morning, I answer. A few doors down, the Martinez kids tumble out in mismatched gloves, arguing about whose turn it is to push. Their father follows, coffee in one hand, shovel in the other. He nods at me, something grateful and sheepish mixed together. No one waits for instructions. They just start. Metal scrapes softly against concrete. Shovels bite into what's left of the night's frost. The sound spreads, overlapping, imperfect, human. It's the kind of noise that used to define this place before everything got quiet and careful. I fire up the snowblower, not because I have to, but because it's part of the rhythm. The engine hums, steady, familiar. No one flinches. No phones come out. We work side by side without a plan. A driveway here, a walkway there. The Martinez kids race each other, laughing when one slips and lands on his back, snow puffing up around him. By mid-morning, the street looks like it used to lived in, not managed. At the corner where Oak Street meets my property, the memorial garden catches the sun. The roses aren't blooming yet, but the beds are clean, the bench brushed free of snow. The small plaque at the base glints softly. Neighbors who serve neighbors. I didn't ask for my name to be anywhere near it. I still don't know who suggested it, but I sit on the bench for a moment anyway, letting the quiet settle in. Sarah would have liked this part. The after. Later that week, the community bulletin board goes up outside the clubhouse. It's nothing fancy, just cork and wood, but it fills fast. Notices for lost pets, a flyer for a potluck, a handwritten sign that makes me smile. Know Your Deed free workshop. Saturday, 10 a.m. I tack it up myself, smoothing the corners flat. People stop to read it as they pass. Some nod. Some laugh, a little embarrassed. One man claps me on the shoulder and says, "Wish we'd had this 15 years ago." So do I tell him. The community fund starts quietly. No ceremony, no speeches. Just a line item added where fines used to live. The first purchase is salt and extra shovels. The second is a bench for the garden. Someone suggests setting money aside for emergencies. Everyone agrees. At the workshop, the folding chairs are half full, then all full, then people stand along the walls. I don't lecture. I don't preach. I just show them how to read what they already own. This line I say pointing means something, always has. People ask questions they should have asked years ago. They listen now. Afterward, a neighbor I barely spoke to before hangs back. He scratches his neck, looks at the floor. "I didn't think you were right," he says finally. "About the road." I know I answer. He nods, relieved I don't press it. "I'm glad you didn't back down." He hesitates, then adds quieter. Finally, someone fought back. The words land gently, not like praise, just recognition. I nod once and let that be enough. That evening I walk Oak Street alone as the sun dips low. Cars pass, people wave. The road feels the same under my boots as it always has, but the weight of it is gone. It's just a road again. When I reach the gate at the edge of my property, I stop. It stands open wide and unguarded, more symbol than barrier now. I rest a hand on the post and feel the grain of the wood solid and warm from the day. I think about maps rolled tight in metal tubes, about signatures drying on paper, about how easily control pretends to be order. Behind me, laughter drifts from a backyard. Ahead, Oak Street curves out of sight, carrying people home without asking permission. I leave the gate open and walk back toward my house as dusk settles in. The snow will come again. It always does. And when it does, we'll be ready not because someone told us to be, but because this place remembers how to take care of itself. I stand by the open gate as the posted easement order dries under its county seal, the memorial plaque, catching first light near the clubhouse flagpole. The hearing ended in public, the record read aloud, and the room exhaled together. Control pressed hard, then slipped when truth was entered. Justice isn't loud. It's steady. The road stays open, the board resets, and the community fund posts its first notice on the bulletin board, restoring what paperwork once froze. Finally, someone fought back. If you've seen rules used to corner neighbors, share what boundary changed the moment the record was read.